Supreme Court decision. Please sit down. If you look at the Supreme Court decision, the Supreme Court examines the issue from two aspects. It looks at the law and then it looks at the manner in which the assessee operates. As far as law is concerned, it looked at the definition of the plant and machinery, how section 17.5 is worded, how 17.5C and how 17.5D has been worded. And then it says that you should either satisfy plant or you should satisfy plant and machinery. That's how the definition went. But a number of people miss the crucial point of the Supreme Court decision when it says every assessee has to demonstrate the functional aspect of the immovable property. This is what is called a functional test in law. How do you use the immovable property for the purpose of your business purpose? For example, when you rent a mall, on the renting of a mall, you are supposed to pay tax. So the definition of plant, there is no definition of a plant in that sense. So the definition of a plant, as has been understood by the courts over a period of time, is that anything that is used for the purpose of your business will be considered as a plant. So if you use your immovable property for your business purpose, not for your own purpose, and then you pay tax on whatever is the income relatable to that business or for that immovable property, then you will be entitled for the input tax credit. So that test continues to be available even after the retrospective amendment. So every immovable property you should demonstrate, is it in terms of my function, what am I using it for? Then you will get the benefit. Yes, yes. Sir, office building, there is something called business purpose. Okay, sir. An office building for your own purpose is not a business purpose. That's why I said, I took the example of a mall only for that. You construct a mall, rent out the mall. That is used as a business. An office building occupied by yourself. If you are constructing an office building, renting out the office building, then it is renting it out for a business purpose. But if you are constructing an office building, you occupy that office building for your own purpose. Then it's a different, no, business purpose means your business is different from, see, you operate, for example, your cost accountant's office. You construct an office, you occupy that office, but you provide a service to clients, right? Now, can you consider that service to a client to be a business? The answer is no. Whereas you construct a building, you rent out the building, you don't use it for your own purpose, you rent it out completely, then on the income which is received, you pay the tax. Then you satisfy the functional test. That's the crucial distinction which the Supreme Court is drawing. So if you do that, then you will be entitled for the input tax credit. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, in the case of BKC Footwear versus Union of India, Gujarat High Court given a favorable judgment to the assessee for allowing ITC on services for inward duty refund. Whereas the same case went to Supreme Court and Supreme Court was not allowed ITC on services for refund, whereas Supreme Court understood that some anomaly in the formula, so they have given a revised formula. So my concern is, what is the grounds taken by the Supreme Court for that, and is there any possibility in future that ITC on services was allowed for inward duty refund? That's it.
See, if you look at BKC Footwear, please sit down. If you look at VKC footwear decision, both of the Gujarat High Court and the Supreme Court, they went into the definition of inputs and input services. Now, the refund of input tax credit under Rule 89(4), there was a definition of an input that covered only goods. It did not cover services. They amended it subsequently to include services. So during the initial period, it did not cover services. What we argued before the High Court was that the definition of input, you should not look at it in the manner in which it is defined under input. You should look at it from what all I can use for my business. So input services also will be considered as an input for the purpose of export. So the Gujarat High Court looked at it from a business perspective. It said that input for the purpose of inverted duty structure would include both goods and services. Now the Supreme Court said it's not open for the courts to redefine what is already defined in the Act. The Act says input means only goods, for whatever reasons. It may be right, may be wrong, but we can't enter into the field of legislation and say that this input will also include input services. That is why subsequently they amended the law to say we will include input services, but when it comes to an inverted duty structure, we will redefine the formula in terms of 89(4), by which input services also will get included. So the VKC footwear Supreme Court said we will look into definition of input. Definition of input under the Act itself covers only goods. It will not cover services. Therefore, to that extent, the High Court was wrong. So what will happen? Your services you will not include for the purpose of your numerator. Denominator you will include the entire turnover. So to that extent, the refund will get reduced. That is what will happen if you don't include services. Now that they redid the formula after the VKC footwear decision, because the Supreme Court told the government that there is a problem. Suppose there is an assessee where substantially his input is only services, his goods is only say 20%, 80% is services. What will you do? If you apply only inputs, then 20% out of the total credit divided by his total turnover into the credit, the refund which you will get will be very small amount.
Negative also.
Negative also. That's not the intention of the law also. The intention of 89(4) is only to give you the credit that is used for exports. Services are also used for exports. Therefore, the government said, in fact, we gave examples to the court. What will happen if somebody has only 50% credit, somebody has 80% credit, somebody has 10% credit but 90% goods. We gave all the three examples to the court. The Supreme Court said we understand the concern, but we can't enter into it. Therefore, they asked the government to please relook at it. That is why after the decision, maybe after a year or so, they redid this formula to include input services also as part of the formula itself. After some time. Correct. No, what will happen is, in the case of a formula, they have tried to address it to an extent by which some services are available. It's not that the entire services are available. There is a problem with the formula even after the introduction. Right. Now, that is where, when we argued this SANS matter, we pointed out the difference between the formula under 89(4) and how under 9610 you compare the 9610 route and the 89(4) route. And then and that is how they looked at. So what happened after VKC footwear was the government knew that there is a problem. They addressed it, but they did not address it in the manner in which it should have been addressed, according to me. Completely. It's something like a midway. I have one at the High Court, I have one at the Supreme Court, you have one at the High Court. Let us come to a midpoint by which I will give you some, you don't get some. That's how they have done in that formula.
What they have done, they have not considered the ITC on services for a refund. What they have taken, see, there's a formula. In that formula, what the tax we have paid on inverted duty, that has to be reduced. What they have done, in the tax paid, they have taken a proportionate of ITC on inputs. So to that extent, somewhere I get some more little refund. But that is not completely allowed, right?
That's what you're saying. Correct. That's what will happen. So instead of a 20 rupees refund which you were getting yesterday, you will get about 40 rupees. Ideally, you should have got 80 rupees. Correct. You will have got 40 rupees. So that's how they have adjusted the formula. Now of course, they have omitted this entire rule. 89.4 and 96 both have gone. Now after this October, I think both the rules have gone. 96 has gone, 89.4 also has gone.
Here the problem is, if I'm going for inward duty structure, for example, for 0.1% sales, it's a merchant export sales. If I go with that formula, I'll not get much benefit. It's hardly 1%, 2% benefit. Correct. For me.
So now you have to decide whether you have to go through the 96, that is the 16.3 route or 16.2 route completely. Whether you have to use the entire credit and then pay amount in cash also, and then pay tax on the total, get the entire amount back. That is what you want to do.
I'm talking about
inverted duty structure. These issues will always be there unless they revise the rate of duty itself. Otherwise, this problem will always be there, because if your inputs are of 18% and 12% substantially, and if your final output is only 5%, whatever you do, you will never get a refund of the entire credit. Correct. Because you can't recover it. You can't get a refund of it.
That's it, sir. Thank you.
Which one, sir? Okay. If you apply the, you are saying after the Kerala High Court's order, ideally they should not be paying it. Correct. Because if the association and the members are one and the same, the logic should ideally be the same. Yes. Right. Somebody asked me also after that High Court decision came. I said, let's see whether they challenge it. I don't think they have challenged that IMA so far. Maybe they will challenge it after some time, because they have not realized the seriousness of the decision of the High Court. So they have not realized it so far. If they challenge it, then you will have an issue. Otherwise, you can apply the High Court for all such similar cases. Correct. They are still paying it. That's what I said. I don't think at least 80% of the assessees or the practitioners have understood the significance of this decision. Not many of the people have understood the significance of the decision. Okay? It will have far-reaching consequences, both in terms of your head office branch inside the country, then the societies, then all clubs, all of them can go out of the GST law if this decision is applied. Yes, sir.
17.5 ineligible credit I have not shown in the GST preview returns, because my accounting practice from the beginning is whatever is ineligible is expensed. So it is not coming in my ledger separately. I have not disclosed it. Now the department is saying you should have disclosed, you have not disclosed it. What is the stand we should take? One. That is one. Second thing on the ISD. See, under the Service Tax Act also, we were very clear what is common services we are distributing, and we had some logic to apply how to distribute the ISD. But under the GST, it's only on the turnover basis. It's not logical, because in a software industry, depending on the manpower, where each person is sitting, how many persons are sitting in each branches, it may not be depending on the turnover, but number of seats. Based on some logics, as a cost accountant, we used to apply it. But that option is not available now. What is the way forward, or can you recommend for the changes? That's the thing.
On the first point, that ineligible credit, you have identified that only so much credit is there. This is what I will take. This is what I will include, and I will show it in 3B. Therefore, the amount of credit which otherwise is not eligible, I have not shown it, expensed it. You can take a stand that I am supposed to show only the credit which I think is eligible. I have shown it in 3B. Since I have expensed the remaining amount, I don't need to show it in 3B. You can take that stand. And you seem to be right also on that. Okay. No, that is different. See, the state government getting revenue is from the taxpayer's perspective. Somebody who has paid the tax, that amount would have already gone to the government. Okay. No, but in law, you are right that to the extent of the credit which you don't want to take, which you have expensed it otherwise, you can show only the actual amount credit being taken in 3B. In law, you are right. Now, whether they accept it is slightly different. Then we can always say that it's something like your the NBFC is reversing 50% credit. That's how they are operating. You take the total credit, 50% you will have to reverse as far as a bank or an NBFC is concerned. Now, when you move it from one bank to another bank with the same PAN number, the remaining 50% you don't again need to reverse 50% again. So this the department doesn't seem to be agreeing, because once you move to another bank, another state, then you don't need to reverse 50%. They don't seem to be agreeing. So it's something like similar to that.
So coming back again on this, with the introduction of the IMS, when they make it mandatory, what will be the situation? Because most of the people, accountants, either they have to change the accounting or follow this.
No, one is you should decide whether you want to litigate this or not. Okay. The cost of litigation in such things is, according to me, not worth litigating, because the cost of litigation, drafting of a writ petition in the High Court, matters pending the High Court for 2-3 years, right? So this you'll have to really see whether it is really worth getting into it, or you can change your system by which you can take the total credit and reverse it. If that is better, maybe you should go for it. Very practical approach. Now, as far as your ISD is concerned, so today, till today, the ISD was optional, right? I think from April 25, they have made it mandatory, right? So till then, it was optional. You could have gone by cross charge. Your third-party credits, you can do a cross charge, state credit, cross charge, etc. But after 1/4, it has become mandatory. Once it has become mandatory, there is a procedure laid down how you should distribute. Based on the turnover of that particular unit only, you will have to distribute. That's a formula prescribed. Now, if you feel that that formula is not favorable to you because of any reason, your business reasons, etc., then you should find a logic how that formula is wrong for you and challenge that formula. Till such time that formula is challenged, that continues to be in the statute book, right? And therefore, you will have to follow that. You cannot have an option not to follow it. Why questions come only from the first few? No questions there, is it? Yes.
What is the latest position that we should take in case of mismatch of 2A? Considering
As Jatin said, I will say ensure that there is no mismatch here.
No, that I agree, but many cases it's not in the assessee's hands. So, considering the Suncraft Energy case, which has been dismissed by the Supreme Court, which is without even giving any clear ruling on that, they just dismiss the case, telling that it is not that we don't interfere in this matter. So, considering that, what is the latest position for an assessee to take that 2A mismatch is there? Then how should he go about? That's point number one. Point number two, there are many instances where I have got an order. I have proved that 2A there is an eligibility, there is a credit available, but that's not been reported in GSTR 9 in table A. So the officer takes a the position. You have been given time to do the reconciliation and present that in table 8A. You have not done it, so I will disallow the credit. Whereas I have complied with all the provisions of section 16.
Okay. Now on this 2A versus 3B is, according to me, most of the issues are solved these days. What 2A, 3B mismatches used to happen in the first 2 or 3 years is not happening these days, right? For one number of reasons. One is your section 16 itself has been amended to say that you can take credit based on once he reports and all that. All those amendments are made in 22. So 2A, 3B mismatches have become less these days. Now, 2, if you are able to reconcile, see, it is one thing to say that I will, both 2A is available to you, my 3B is available to you. You look at it and then you reconcile yourself. That is one view you can take, because both are available to the department. Both are a part of the portal today. So, agree. No, he is talking about a figure in 2A versus a 3B figure given by you. 2A would, absolutely. So, yes. So, one is they give you the opportunity to reconcile and give it to them. That is one way. My suggestion would be that if there is an opportunity given to you to reconcile a 2A and 3B, when I say you, I refer to the assessee. Assessee should make an attempt to reconcile and give it, so that you avoid a litigation on that. Now, if after giving the reconciliation is not accepted, then that's a different point. Then courts are always there. Once you give a reconciliation, courts don't, the officers don't accept it because you never changed it at that point of time. Let's assume that you have to modify the 3B within a particular time, or you have to report the 2A mismatch within a particular time, or you have done this reconciliation but 9C doesn't match. All these are procedural errors. So if you are able to point out to the department that yes, 2A is this, 3B is this, you are comparing a 2A of 100 rupees with my 3B, this 3B of 100 rupees is the breakup is this. Then 9C I have given, 9C, this column I have filled up, and this is the figure I am reporting there. I have reported there more or less, the reason why I reported is this. You give all these figures to the department, explaining to them. If they don't accept it, saying that you have not done it within the particular time limit contemplated, courts are always there. There is no problem at all. In fact, I don't know how many of you would have seen, there is one decision of the earlier Chief Justice, Mr. Sanjay Khanna. It's hardly 5 lines decision, where there was a reconciliation attempted. The court, the Bombay High Court went into it and said that he has given a reconciliation, forget your time limits, see that reconciliation and give him relief. The High Court said that. The Supreme Court went into it and said the government should seriously consider whether in these types of mistakes also they should insist on time limits. There's a beautiful line written that the right to do business includes the right to make mistakes. The right to do business includes the right to make mistakes. Because when you do a business of a enormous transactions, you are not a machine not to make mistakes. Therefore, the court said, look at it. Look at this genuineness, look at these pleadings, and then see how you can solve it. So, all that you will have to do is, without giving a reconciliation, to expect the courts to interfere is not possible. You give the reconciliation, explain everything, and thereafter he doesn't look at it, the courts will definitely interfere into it. That's not a problem. Come again, sir? For export order cancellation. Okay. The export has not taken. Okay. Suppose you have received a service.
It is not a receipt. It is not a receipt of service. It is my income. It is not my expenditure. Then I told them that it is not an expenditure to pay under RCM. It is an income. I replied accordingly, so that there is no question of payment of tax under RCM for amount received in foreign currency.
They are saying you pay on forward charge now.
No, order is passed. You have done, you follow under forward charge.
Come again, you pay on?
No, order is passed.
Okay.
Oh, if that is the case, you pay under forward charge.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Fortunately, it is a comedy of error. Fortunately,
you pay tax according to the forward, reverse is up to you.
Okay. Unfortunately, Joint Commissioner appeal also, yes, you have to pay this, no, finally, order passing. How do we educate them?
Sir, how do you educate them? Wrong person to ask. There's nothing which I can do about it. I keep doing this in the courts every day. No, you see, all this, the problem is this. I'll tell you why the problem is. And this is the understanding of most of the, at least the state officers. Central officers are slightly more matured in that.
In the quoting the provision of law.
Slightly more matured, and they have been handling the services for quite some time and all that. So their understanding is slightly better. You see, the definition of goods and the definition of service, if you look at the definition of service will be anything other than goods. Correct. And definition of goods is whatever is there. Now, this definition of anything other than goods, according to them, means if you receive an amount and if it is not for goods, it is deemed that you have received a service, because the definition of service is anything other than goods. Therefore, you should pay tax. That's the way in which the construct is. They forget that both in definition of goods and definition of service, there has to be a supply of goods, there has to be a supply of service. Any income which you receive is not subjected to GST. An income attributable to a supply, either of goods or of services or a combination of both, is what is supposed to be taxed. Now they forget to look at the basic provision of section 7 and look directly at the consideration to say that whatever you receive is to be subject to tax. That's why I was referring to the circular. You should look at the circular relating to the liquidated damages. It's an excellent explanation of how Contract Act has to be seen, how every amount received need not be subjected to tax. The same way, every amount has to be attributed to a supply. You have to identify whether it is goods or it has to be a service, and thereafter only you should levy tax. Beyond this, I don't think the government can explain. But if they refuse to look at it and then say that since you have received an amount, you should pay tax, then they don't understand the basic concepts of law. That's the whole problem. This happens everywhere. This is one instance we have seen, but this happens. There's a number of advance rulings also on the same manner. Yeah. Advance ruling is a disaster in Karnataka. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.